All right, welcome back. In this video, we're going to talk about this that's actually in your pocket, right? This right here, the greenback. We're going to talk about this. This is where you're going to see me start to get on my soapbox a little bit because I really get passionate about this subject. Actually, let me put that back in my pocket. We looked at the history of money. I gave you some ideas on being a medium of exchange. And then I talked to you about the gold and silver in one of the stories of the origins of banking and how the gold and silver supply got collected. And how does that relate to now? How does that relate to this dollar, this $5 in my pocket? Well, until 1933, the majority of the world's, no, let me put it this way, the majority of the nations in the world, their currencies were backed by gold and silver. That was the standard for centuries. In our country, April 5th, 1933, Franklin Delano Roosevelt issued Executive Order 6102, and it required gold coin, gold bullion, and gold certificates to be delivered to the government. Now that's an interesting discussion because I don't mind there being this thing of saying, hey, okay, you know what, we're not going to use gold as money to transact anymore. We're going to start using these dollar bills. I have a problem with you telling me that I must turn it in and I must exchange it for these dollar bills, right? So for those of you that don't know, Executive Order 6102 put an end to the gold standard in the United States of America. And it became punishable by law, and it became a crime to transact, to hoard, or to use gold in any way as a medium of exchange, as money. Because what they did was they put an end to the gold standard, and that was about the time the Federal Reserve was born. The Federal Reserve is a central bank. It is not owned by the United States government. It is a central bank, and there are some strong arguments that the Federal Reserve is in fact a private bank. That's a rabbit hole we're not going to go down, but there is a book, I'll tell you, I'll drop you a little piece here. It's called The Creature of Jekyll Island. If you're interested, go look it up. But it is a rabbit hole, don't get stuck in it. Executive Order 6102 put an end to the gold standard. This dollar bill used to be backed by a certain amount of ounces of gold, but now it's not. Now it's just built upon the faith and credit of our government. So let's look at this. It's what's called fiat money, F-I-A-T. Fiat is a Latin term that means it shall be. Basically, it's a promissory note, an IOU. Fiat money is a currency that a government has declared to be legal tender. But it's not backed by a physical commodity like gold or silver, or cacao or silk. The value of fiat money is derived solely from the relationship between supply and demand rather than the value of the material that the money is made of, paper. Historically, most currencies were based on physical commodities such as gold and silver, but fiat money is based solely on the faith and credit of the economy. Now, I'm not an economics professor by any means, I can just tell you that. But what I can tell you is in my own rational mind, in my own ability to question and to wonder and to really look at something and determine if it's working or not, I don't have a problem that it's not backed by gold. I was born in 1978, so that didn't really affect me. We've all widely agreed that these greenbacks, they mean what they say. So $5, $10, whatever, fine. Don't have a problem with that. What I do have a problem with is the centralization of money. Not because it's inherently evil, not because the banking system is inherently evil, and not because it has served us for centuries. What I have a problem with is how it is currently being used and how it is currently out of balance and, shall I just say, flat out broke and corrupt. The whole thing. It's shot. And that's why many people will agree that Bitcoin, the white paper for Bitcoin, was released during that 2008 global crisis as a means of solving a problem, and solve a problem it absolutely did. So we have these dollar bills in our pocket. Great, where do we get those? They get printed by the Federal Reserve. Literally, we print them. We get into the ideas of inflation, supply and demand, economics. That's over my head. I really don't care. But there's another problem that comes not only printing money, whatever, if you can print the money. I mean, people go to jail for printing money, but the Federal Reserve gets to print it. Okay. But there's something called fractional reserve lending. Right? If you haven't heard of fractional reserve lending, that's how the banks operate. I once heard, and it wasn't long ago, I was watching I guess it was the World Economic Forum, and they were discussing cryptocurrencies because it's disrupting everything. Everybody's trying to grab a hold of what's going on. And this lady said, you know, we have something now stronger than gold and silver. We have laws, LAWS. We have laws in place. And those laws are stronger than the gold and silver that used to back the money. And you hear me chuckle because, yeah, we're getting ready to get on my soapbox. Fractional reserve lending is the idea that a bank can, well, let me just lay it out for you. So let's say I walk in and I deposit $100 in the bank. By law, that bank only has to keep 10% of that, $10, in the bank. They can turn around to the person behind me in line and lend out 90% of it, right? So of my $100 that I put in, they keep 10 and they can immediately loan out 90%. Now, here we go. So on that $100 I put in, I have $100 in my bank account. The bank then lends $90 to the guy behind me, the girl behind me. She walks away with $90 in her hand. I have 100 in my account, digital. I have 90 in my hand, physical. That's $190 that originally came from a deposit of $100. And there is no end to that. It just continues. They're only required to keep 10%, and they can lend out 90%. Now here's another rub. So that $100, let's put it this way, every time you put money in the bank, you're loaning them your money. You're saying, please hold this for me. I don't want to hold it. I want you to do it, and I want you to keep track of it. I want you to be responsible for it so that you can then provide me the services of convenience and interacting digitally with my money. In return, the banks pay you 0.1% annually a year. And what do they loan out that other 90% for? Depends on the loan, right? Anywhere from 2 to 3% good on a home loan, all the way up to 10% on a personal loan or 20% on a credit card. Yeah, that's a one-sided transaction. Now here's a point that I really want you to understand. Every time you spend $1, so this is a $5 bill. This is 5 votes. Yeah, we're breaking down here. This is 5 votes. Every dollar is a vote. And here's what I mean by that. Every 4 years in this country, a circus comes to town. And every 4 years, we're excited for that circus because we get to place one vote and we feel good about ourselves and off we go, yay America. Every 4 years, that same circus gets rebranded, but it's actually the same circus. Far more powerful than that is every dollar that you spend. Every dollar you spend is a vote. That is why Walmart is the nation's largest organic retailer. That's why Amazon is the largest. They are responsible for something like over 75% of all online purchases because that's where people spend the money. Dollars are your greatest vote. So every time you go into a bank, every time you buy a product, every time you do business with someone or some entity, you're voting for that product or service. And you're literally voting for the bank right now. Wherever your money is, you're saying, hey, I believe in you. I believe in you so much, I want you to hold this for me, and I want you to provide me a service in return. And what we're going to do in the next video is we're going to break it down, and we're probably going to switch over to the whiteboard here because I'm going to put some things up on the board. But we're going to break down just exactly what it is that's wrong with this picture, because there's a large elephant in the room, and I personally don't do well with elephants. So we're going to lay this thing out, and I want you to really see where we are now and where we're going, because where we are now is not working, but where we're going, it's looking real good once you start to understand it. So I hope you followed me on this, and in the next video what we're going to talk about is just exactly what went down in 2008, and just exactly what it means to vote with your money, and just exactly what it means about where to put your money, because there's a lot of responsibility in here. So we'll see you in the next video.